It's another Locked On Blue Jackets happy hour. It is Friday night, finally. It's been a really long week for me. I'm sure it's been a long week for Hayden as well. And we're going to talk about some news. Blue Jackets have a new goalie. The Blue Jackets have some training camp cut. And we have the roster for tomorrow's game. So we'll talk about that and a lot of other things on this happy hour edition of Locked On Blue Jackets.
You're Locked On Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, guys? It's Locked On Blue Jackets. Jay Foster, Hayden Halshorn. We're not going to do all of the fancy intro because this is not a proper episode. This is an episode where we drink beer and talk about whatever we want to talk about. So, do you have anything that you want to... I know we've got a few things that we want to cover. Again, not a proper episode. We'll cover them properly probably on Monday's episode. But is there anything that you are excited about in the news that's kind of come out today? Because I feel like a lot of things that we talked about on this morning's episode as, hey, it would be cool if this could happen, or when will this happen, happen today. So let's start off there.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see anything that was like jumped off the page, like no like huge breaking news today, but there were some interesting things that happened. For example, I think overall thoughts on tomorrow's preseason roster against the Buffalo Sabres is pretty NHL heavy. So that should be exciting. If there's any Blue Jackets fans making that trip to Buffalo, you're going to see Adam Fantilli, Patrick Laine, Dan Matejchuk. Like, you're going to see a lot of big name guys. I know Matejchuk is kind of a newer guy and really competing for an NHL spot. Actually is.
If Denton Matejchuk makes the roster over David Jiricek, I will be floored. I think his path is slightly easier because there is an open left defense spot, which is where Matejchuk plays, but it's going to be... He might be one of the last guys to get cut. Like, he might get his 9 NHL games before his entry level kicks in and then get sent back to Moose Jaw. I'm not counting that out. It's there's too much competition here. They cut 14 players today, and they still have to cut like 50% of the people that are left. So wild.
Yeah, it is wild. I mean, it's a good problem to have. The Blue Jackets having him around is great. It is really weird that they can't send him to Cleveland. That whole it must
be so frustrating. Like, and I get that why the NHL CHL agreement exists, but also long suffering sighing about it, you know?
Yeah. In this training camp, still, just to jump different topics too, and we can pick and choose which one we want to dive fully into on this. But goalies still seem to be kind of an issue. Elvis didn't look good. He didn't look good in that first preseason game against the Penguins, and it's a little scary. Kind of was the same old Elvis. It felt like, again, it wasn't much, but I'm getting a little nervous again already for that. Be it that the rest of the roster looks awesome. So, like, I'd hate for the rest of the roster to look so good, and then the goalies just be kind of slacking. But I do think there is something here with Aaron Dell, who is playing tomorrow as well. So that should be interesting. And then they brought in a new guy today. Jet Greaves is still good. Daniel Tarasov, he's on a knee injury right now. Hasn't made camp at all yet. So that's why that is a huge concern. If Tarasov was in the lineup on a regular basis in these preseason games, I don't think I'd be as worried, but he hasn't been. So a little concern there. Yeah, I don't know. Are you as scared of the goalies as I am right now? Or is it too early?
I think it's too early. Like, we've seen Elvis for what, 25 minutes?
That's fair. Yeah.
Of a game. I get the wariness. I think maybe I am a bigger believer that the goaltending will kind of sort itself out. I don't really think that you can throw 25 minutes of hockey into, it being a huge reason. Something that does kind of give me a little bit of a pause is they've picked up Spencer Martin on waivers from Vancouver, who was the second worst goalie in the league. So better than Elvis, but only just. And I can't tell if this is he was very good in the AHL, I should say. He had a 916 save percentage in the AHL this season and a 929 save percentage in 4 playoff games for the Abbotsford Canucks. So he was pretty good in the AHL. I don't know if they're picking him up as someone to bolster the AHL, or if they, again, is Tarasov going to miss a little more time? I don't know. That was my assumption was, maybe Tarasov's going to miss more time than we thought. But yeah, it's really tough to try and figure it out. Goalies are mysterious and no one understands them. Like, I understand it a little bit more than the average bear, but not by much. So we'll see. I think the plan is, for me anyway, is just keep monitoring it. I did not see a ton of Elvis's game live because it was late at night and I had had a whole thing. So I'm excited to watch a game at a normal time tomorrow and kind of see where we go from there. But yeah, Elvis is definitely one of the guys I'm going to be watching. Aaron Dell is another guy I'm going to be watching. And if we can switch back to the forwards for a second, another guy that I'm going to be watching is Dmitry Voronkov, who's going to be in the lineup tomorrow. And
gain some weight.
Apparently, I don't know. So for people who haven't seen this tweet from Aaron Portzline, apparently when Dmitry Voronkov showed up to camp, he was 6'4" at 190 pounds. And then today, the Blue Jackets have updated him to 6'5", 240 pounds. And I don't know if that's that he just said that he was 190 pounds before camp, and they were like, yeah, that seems right. And they finally weighed him and are like, actually, we're going to put an extra 50 pounds on there because that's a big jump.
He got on scale and people were like, whoa.
Measuring of 6'4" to 6'5", but I don't know. It's yeah, he put on some weight, and I think a lot of people were expecting him to be a lot more dominant than he has been thus far in Traverse City and in preseason. But I believe he was skating with Fantilli for the past couple of days in practice. Obviously, Laine moving to center. We talked about that this morning, but so maybe we'll see a little bit more from him. He's definitely a guy that I'm going to be keeping an eye on.
Yeah, and he's in the lineup tomorrow. So you can see, for those that aren't yet on the Dmitry Voronkov train, you will have your chance at 3:00. He'll be in the lineup wearing number 10. I also saw in this tweet that he is like only 5 NHL players dressed at a heavier weight last season, and only one of them was a forward. So Dimitri's a very big dude, and yeah, if he can use that to his advantage, which we all know the bigger you are, you probably have an easier time, I don't know, shedding defenders or throwing some checks out there. If he can get nasty, then it's going to be hard for the coaches to leave him off of the roster. So, and he's going to kind of need that, I think, Jay. I think I could see him starting in Cleveland, but he's going to need to ball out really tomorrow and Wednesday. Those are 2 big games for him. And especially tomorrow, too, because there's so many NHL players on this roster that's like you really have no excuse. Like, the team played a really good game, I felt like, on Tuesday night when they just didn't allow the St. Louis Blues to have any shots on goal. Jet Greaves had 3 saves that night, and he played 2 periods. Like, what is going on with that? Like, the team really play that good a defense? I don't know, but that's what the stats said. So there's no excuses in tomorrow's game. I expect the Blue Jackets to actually win the game. We talked glowingly about the Sabres yesterday, but I just think there's too many good players out there. The only reason they lose this game tomorrow is if Elvis still looks the same way that he did in that Penguins game. And I know you didn't see some of it, but he just looks like, and I don't mean to switch the conversation back to Elvis, but he just looks like he's getting lost in his crease again, like that same old issue, which again, 1 period of play again in the preseason, we can write this off. But it is something to monitor. So, yeah, I'm excited for tomorrow's game. It's going to feel like a Blue Jackets game. I didn't see the college football slate, but I know the Buckeyes aren't playing. So I expect a good amount of Blue Jackets fans to kind of be tuning into the game, checking out the new Jackets. I actually be curious to see who hasn't tuned into a game yet that is going to be tuning in tomorrow, because it's a weekend game, 3 o'clock. Like I said, Ohio State's not playing. So it should be pretty good vibes.
Yeah, for sure. It's gonna be an interesting one. I just went to look and see if the Sabres roster had been announced yet, and it hasn't. So I don't know who they're going to be playing. But yeah, I would like the Blue Jackets to come out and do well in this game. They've got 4 preseason games left, which 7 preseason games feels like a lot. I don't know if I'm just out of practice. I don't remember how it was last preseason, but I think now that we finally kind of caught up from all of the delays from COVID, 7 preseason games, we'll see Dmitry Voronkov at least for a little longer. But yeah, I completely agree. I wouldn't be surprised if they sent him down to the AHL. Obviously, we talked about it a little bit earlier in the week. He does have a European assignment clause, so he doesn't have to go to the AHL if he doesn't want to. But we'll see how that goes. I think I don't know. People get all kind of rowdy about the AHL and like it's the worst thing in the world to get sent down. It's not. It could be a good thing for him. Look at Karamarchenko, you know? The one-way contract, I'm assuming, John, you are talking about Spencer Martin. I need to pull up what his contract is because I didn't do that before this. But again, like I'm sure everyone here knows this, but just so people know, and a one-way contract just means that they get paid the same amount of money, whether they're in the AHL or the NHL. It doesn't mean that he can't be sent down. I assume that he will probably be sent down. I don't think
making a lot of money. Have you looked it up and seen it yet?
Oh, okay. Sorry, John. I'm actually meaning all the one-way contracts on the team, leaving very little room for other young players to come up into the lineup. Yes. That's kind of where we're sitting at the minute as well. There's a lot, like we talked about this in, I think, this morning's episode. I've lost track of time, but there's still a lot of these guys that need to make the roster and not a lot of spots. You know, we talked about how crowded it was on defense. There's 2 free spots for 5 defensemen. There's 6 forward spots, probably less than that if you assume that Sean Crowley is going to get locked into one of those spots, and probably Jack Roslovic as well. So there's 4 winger spots for, again, maybe 8 to 10 guys. So it'll be interesting. I am kind of off the opinion that what am I saying? I am of the opinion that I would rather have guys in Cleveland than the press box.
Oh,
so
yeah.
if Voronkov has to go down, if Sillinger has to go down, like, it's fine. It's not the end of the world, you know?
Yeah, the other thing is, too, is there's going to be injuries throughout the year. Guys are going to get opportunities to play. Playing in Cleveland is not the worst thing in the world. Gosh, it's the AHL. It's the second best league in North America. Like, what are we talking about here? And, yeah, I think that all that stuff will work itself out. I think the young players that you want to see, you're probably going to see anyway. Like, we all want to see Yurchek. We all want to see Fantilli. We all want to see Voronkov. We're probably going to see those guys. So the guys that like need to be in Columbus are going to be in Columbus, and the guys that are next up will know quickly. I don't think Cole Sillinger has had a good enough training camp for me to be like, he needs to be on the NHL lineup, which is, we're only halfway through training camp too. Like, we still have 4 more preseason games left. So a lot of time for this stuff to figure itself out. But so far, yeah, I think the guy that's causing the most headaches right now is Denton Mateychuk, because they're like, what do we do with him? He's playing so good. He looks so smooth. He hasn't really gone against high-end talent yet. Although the Blues had a good amount of NHL dudes the other night, a good amount, and still the team looked really good. So Yeah, I think he's causing the most headaches. The other guy that's causing some headaches is Emil Bemstrom
Mhm.
because he's just doing Emil Bemstrom things, which is just dominate preseason games. Like, I don't know what it is with him, but he just loves to dominate preseason games. I didn't mean to disrespect the SPHL. So sorry. He's just dominating preseason games, which has been electric. And I think he'll probably be on the opening night roster, Jay. I feel like he's trending towards that. He'd have to fall off a cliff the last 4 games for him to kind of lose the favor of Pascal Vincent, because Pascal Vincent, after that Blues game the other night, was just going on and on about Emil. So,
and like, if Emil Bemstrom can put it together, that would be amazing, because I feel like that's what the fans have been asking for. And he's inconsistent, he's streaky, he's probably always going to be like that. Goal scorers always are like that. Elk, we have seen your messages, we are going to get to them in just a second. I just want to finish off this Bemstrom point. I feel like Emil Bemstrom is, like you said, he's probably going to be on the opening night roster. I question whether he'll stick there. But like you said, Vincent's obviously pretty high on him. Robinson and Foodie, I think Robinson probably will be on the roster. Foodie, correct me if I'm wrong here. I don't know a way to check this. I'm sure Foodie went through waivers last season, and they managed to like sneak him through. I wonder if that's what usually happens. I think at the start of the season is they just put a bunch of guys on waivers and try and sneak some of the younger, better guys through. So I would not be surprised to see Foodie on waivers. Robinson, I assume he'll stick around, but right now Emil Bemstrom is doing his job better than he does. So Robinson's got to step it up. Do you want to talk about Marchenko? Because I think Marchenko might be on the list of players that I'm most excited for. He's playing tomorrow night. I believe that will be his preseason debut. Obviously, he missed the start of training camp with that injury. I guess he's ready to go now. And he was skating, I believe, with Gaudreau and Laine, which is a very fun line.
You think? Are you kidding me?
I can't figure out what line he's going to be on in this game, because obviously Gaudreau isn't playing. Let me pull the roster up again for tomorrow's game.
Brian Hedger, by the way, as you pull that up, Brian Hedger, who works with the Dispatch, covers the Blue Jackets, does a sneaky good job covering the Blue Jackets. He was at the skate today, catching some of the Blue Jackets practice a little bit, and it looks like Marchenko is practicing the bumper position in the power play, which could be really fun because we all know how hard of a shot that he has. You set him up right there in the high slot and let him go to work. So if Marchenko's gonna be getting power play looks like that this year with dudes like Fantilli, Laine, Gaudreau, Werenski circling around him, Jiricek, who's a great puck mover as well. Like, this team's going to be so dangerous. I mean, Marchenko specifically, his stats are going to go through the roof. I'm so excited to see him play.
And from what it looks like, I understand it anyway, is the top power play unit. You're going to have Patrick Laine in his face-off dot doing Patrick Laine things. I believe Fantilli is that net front presence, which is good because he's enormous and he's got pretty good hands. So I'm assuming what's going to happen is he's going to steal a lot of Patrick Laine's goals on the power play, which is kind of what Boone Jenner did at the start of last season. Was he had like 10 goals, and I was like, how? And then realized that he'd just been deflecting all of Patrick Laine's shots. But it'll be interesting. And then so Fantilli net front, Marchenko in that bumper position, kind of in the mid slot. I know that's not a thing, but that's always what I think of it as. Laine on one side, Gaudreau on the other, and then Werenski patrolling the blue line. Like, that should scare penalty kills.
Yeah, no, it will. And speaking of penalty kills, Blue Jackets will be without Sean Kuraly tomorrow night, who is one of their better penalty killers and also fighting for a roster spot as well. I I don't see the Blue Jackets I don't see the Blue Jackets not having Sean Kuraly in the lineup though. That's the thing. I
Yeah.
feel like he's too bottom line of a consistent player to be left
And
out.
he does fine for what he makes as well. I think he's on 2.5 million for the next 2 seasons, which is a very acceptable amount of money for Sean Kuraly, in my opinion. But it's interesting because I feel like we did a lot of kind of roster analysis and roster examination, and we spent a lot of this summer having a lot of like, who's going to make the roster under Mike Babcock's coaching, and now we're kind of back to square one of we've got to figure out what Pascal Vincent values in a depth player, and so like I would assume that Kuraly is going to be on the roster, but there's definitely space for him to not be.
Yeah. Yeah, he's not on tomorrow's game roster. He did just play as an NHL vet. He did just play in a road game earlier this week, and Johnny Gaudreau. I almost called him Gani Gaudreau. That would have been crazy.
That is a me level.
Yeah, that would have been bad. That shows you that maybe these are catching up to me. But this is just a cherry Coke, so I don't know how that works. But yeah, Johnny Gaudreau's off that roster, so it's not like it's who's ever off it. We're just kind of making more of a big deal than it needs to be, but some significant bubble guys, I think Robinson, Kuraly, those two not being on it. Texier is a little bit interesting. Noah's a big Justin Danforth fan, and that is one name that just does not get enough coverage, I feel like, on this podcast due to he's just not a name. He's just not a name. But the truth is, when he's out there on the ice, he puts his head down and he is going to wreck through any opposing jersey. He needs to make his place on the ice. And it's really fun to watch, really exciting. And I think out of all the guys that I read yesterday on I did just pull up Daily Faceoff and was just reading the Daily Faceoff lines just to give people an idea of what that is saying. That's always crazy. Obviously, it's as accurate as it can be, but they're covering all NHL teams, so they might not have the best stuff. But they had Justin Danforth listed as the fourth line right winger. Great spot for him. I think he can excel there. He has excelled there before. So yeah, I write him off he'll be in the AHL the second that we get a chance to move him down, but not necessarily so. He is a really solid player, really responsible defensively, and if I'm correct, he's in the lineup tomorrow. So another chance for him to continue to show his NHL value, and he's going to be playing with some big dogs. So it's we're going to get a true look at what the Blue Jackets are going to look like this season tomorrow.
Yes. This is probably going to be the closest look that we've seen thus far, I think. Obviously, like you said, there's some guys missing there, but I think this is going to be a case of let's just see what happens. I'm interested in the defensemen. So the defensemen we've got in this game, Matejchuk, Werenski, Provorov, Gabranson, and Jiricek. I feel like I'm missing one. 1, 2, 3. And Adam Boqvist, yeah. So I can't figure out how these are going to line up in terms of pairs. I would be very interested in putting Provorov with Jiricek. I think Boqvist with Werenski, and I think they're going to put Denton Matejchuk next to Gabranson, which could get a little interesting. But Matejchuk's a smaller guy. He's pretty offensively minded, as evidenced by his bajillion assists this season. But there's another name on the list that I've just spotted that I want to, that I was surprised was not part of the roster cuts. James Malatesta was not made, was not sent down to Cleveland. And he's really the only guy still on the roster that is kind of an almost definite AHLer. So that makes me wonder, are they giving James Malatesta a closer look? He plays left wing, which the team is kind of, if I'm remembering rightly, the team is weaker on left wing than they are on right wing. So there is an option there for him. But that could get a little interesting is if James Malatesta decides that he's going to make the NHL. It's unlikely, but I think it would be fun. I liked watching him in the kind of the first half of the Blues game that I saw before I fell asleep because it was 2:30 in the morning. But I was okay. So here's the thing: is before we were going to go live for happy hour, I was like, right, I will write down what my 13 top Blue Jackets forwards are, and then I didn't do that. But I don't know how to cut this down because I'm looking at this and I'm like, okay, well, the top 6 is done. That's an easy one. And then I look at the bottom 6 and I'm like, okay, Texier, Roslovic, Corrali, Robinson, Olivier is going to be in the mix because, of course, he's going to be in the mix. Does Justin Danforth make the team? Does Cole Sillinger make the team? Does Igor Chinikov make the team? Dmitry Voronkov, kind of a wild card at the minute. He's an option. Carson Meyer has been making a really good push to make the team. Traffic
Josh Dunn. Josh Dunn's in tomorrow's lineup.
Yeah.
And, you know, he fought Nick Ritchie the other night. Like, I don't know what more is like, hey, I'm ready for the NHL than dropping the gloves, having a fight. Obviously, a lot more to it than that. But he's a guy who plays with a lot of passion. And I think it's a lot of confirmation. It's confirmation on some takes that we've had, Jay, to see him still in preseason lineups, because that means that he's getting a look. And Josh Dunn is a big body, 6'4", 212 pounds. And I think he's a sneaky good candidate to make that bottom 6. Again, he's going to have to step over some longtime NHL players in there. Sean Corrali, Jack Roslovic, like that's not going to be easy. Cole Sillinger, again, still in the mix. But a guy that isn't in tomorrow's lineup that I'm kind of disappointed, but I know ultimately he's just going to end up going back to Cleveland, is Trey Fix-Wolansky.
Mm-hmm.
That's a little disappointing. Noah, I want to make a comment real quickly about you. So Noah here commented, Crosby spoke highly of Danforth. I don't care what our opponents say of our players.
Okay, but in fairness, if Sidney Crosby is saying something nice about you, and like in terms of hockey, like I feel like that's probably a pretty good thing.
It is.
You know, it'd be like if Albert Einstein told you that you were real good at physics.
It's a good thing.
You wouldn't be like, well, screw you, Einstein. I don't care. So we do appreciate Noah being one of our everydayers, though. We love that. If people haven't, I'm just going to do a quick reminder because we're about half an hour in now somehow already. We are doing a giveaway, which is super exciting. If you are in the state of Ohio and you would like to win some Blue Jackets tickets, all you have to do is email us at lockedonbluejackets@gmail.com and send a screenshot of proof that you are subscribed to our YouTube channel. We decided that since we hit 500 YouTube subscribers, we would do a giveaway because you guys rock. So if you haven't done that and you are on this live stream or you are watching this later on, send us an email. We've already got a bunch of entries, and I'm excited by how many emails we've had from people just being like, hey, we watch you every day. We love this. Shout out to you guys. So shout out to you guys. And that's kind of all I have to say on that. But yes, I totally agree. Trey Fix-Wolansky probably going to go back to Cleveland, which is upsetting. But, well, hey, Noah, if you haven't emailed us already, then email us a screenshot of proof that you're subscribed to our YouTube channel, and you might win some tickets to, I think it's the November 2nd game that we have the tickets for. So I recommend it. I am a big fan of free stuff, always. And I am especially a big fan of free hockey tickets. So
don't expect glass seats, like I said. But to go back to enemies that say nice things about our guys, I will never forget when the Blue Jackets got pummeled this past year. It was before they got ready to play the Flyers. Mm-hmm. And Torts was back, doing media with the Blue Jackets media because obviously he, longtime Blue Jackets coach. And he said, don't go out looking for a new coach. You got the guy in Brad Larson. And I remember thinking, like, do we have the guy? And a lot of crap has happened since then.
Well, you think that Torts was like sabotaging the team? Like, yeah, definitely hire Brad Larson, and then like cackling away in Philadelphia about it. But
yeah.
I don't know. Is this it might be sacrilege. It might be bad to say on a Blue Jackets podcast. I like Sidney Crosby. I think he's a pretty nice guy. Obviously, extremely competitive and into hockey, and I think that sometimes makes him into the enemy of people who aren't Penguins fans. But I like him. And I respect his opinion on the sport. So
he is very fun to watch. He's like gambling and fantasy hockey, those are the only two ways that I can enjoy Sidney Crosby, because I don't like watching the Penguins succeed ever, but I do love watching Sidney Crosby play hockey because he's so freaking good. Even nowadays, it's awesome. His hand-eye coordination is like freakishly good. The amount of goals that he has scored where the pucks are in the air that he's just whacked out of the air in his career is insane. I don't even want to know the number because like half of them are probably against the Blue Jackets. But sorry, all that to say, Justin Danforth, that's great that Crosby is saying good things about him. And yeah, he's just a guy that just doesn't get enough love on this podcast. So we need to do a better job.
I think it's because he got hurt basically immediately last season. I think he played like 6 games and then was done for the season. But yeah, I'm a big Justin Danforth fan. He's another candidate, I think, for them to sneak through waivers at the start of the season. I don't know that he will get a spot on this roster. He probably wouldn't be in my top 13 or 14 forwards. But something else I wanted to kind of bring up as well is I wonder if there are some trades on the horizon, because the Blue Jackets have too many NHLers. And that's going to be a problem. You know, like we just talked about, Foodie has to go through waivers. Robinson will have to go through waivers. Basically anyone that's not on their ELC will have to go through waivers, you know? Chinakhov will have to go through waivers. Danforth will have to go through waivers. Actually, Chinakhov might not. I believe Chinakhov is still waivers exempt. Ignore me on that one. Again, classic Locked On Blue Jackets. I've closed the tab that I need, so it's fine. We're just going to pretend. But yeah, you know, we've been talking about it all summer. Are they going to move Boquist, Bean, and or Peak? Are they going to move Jack Roslovic? Are they going to try and move a guy like Eric Robinson? Maybe. You know, I guess it depends on how the season starts, I think, and who plays well in training camp. But I am surprised that they haven't made a move on defense, especially now that Matejchuk seems to have decided that he's going to make a push for the NHL as well.
I'd probably imagine that there's just a lot of teams that are kind of in this spot right now where they feel like they have a really good training camp because they have all of their prospects kind of in one building and are looking around. And I don't think teams have a fully good picture of what their defensive core looks like. Obviously, the Blue Jackets don't have a good picture. We have a idea that it's going to be very good, you know, because of how much talent is just around. Like Stanislav Svozil, like that dude could be playing in the NHL right now. I feel not
even gonna get a look in because he's so far down the depth lineup. Like this was what frustrated me about, and like I feel better about it now than when it initially happened. But like the Provorov Severson acquisitions did frustrate me because I was like, okay, well here is yet another barrier that our young defense have to get through, and I understand that the defense was bad last season and they needed to improve. I don't think that they needed to pick up 2 veteran guys, especially one that they signed for 8 years. But
they picked up a veteran guy the year before. They got Eric Branson. Like,
yeah,
they keep going after veteran guys in the defense every offseason. And it's like, you're drafting so well. Keep letting these guys come up. And like Corson Kuhlman's, he looks good. Like the Blue Jackets have a they're really rich at that position, and it's a very competitive position, but also at the same time, it's kind of like an F1 race. Like not a lot of passes are happening. You know, it's pretty. You're going to turn it on and catch it for the vibes, but no passing is happening. It's all just kind of like stagnant, which is unfortunate because there's a lot of good players. But I guess that does mean for the folks, you know, that are living closer to Cleveland, hey, you can always go watch the Monsters play. We need the Monsters to be back in the playoffs because Cleveland deserves playoff hockey, man. They deserve playoff hockey. So, hey, all these guys that aren't going to be in the lineup with Columbus, they're still going to be making some good money playing in Cleveland, and they're going to be developing. So, yeah, just kind of what I got to tell myself as a fan. Like, it's all right. If they're not in the NHL, they're not really losing anything by playing in the AHL.
And I feel like that's true, especially of defensemen, because I am a firm believer that I don't think you can overdevelop a defenseman. And so, like, that's why I'm not, like, thrilled that Jiricek could go back to the AHL. I don't think he'll, like, learn a ton, but I think he will continue to refine the skills that he has. He's got to work on his skating a little bit, but that's something that, in my opinion, he can do in the NHL or the AHL. But I think it's tough to overdevelop a defenseman. I think it's the forwards, I think, that are kind of not worrying to me, but what more does Trey Fix-Wolansky have to learn from the AHL? I think there are some younger guys that could probably get something from it, but if you're not going to be an NHL guy, then the AHL, it's fine. It is what it is, but it must be frustrating to be just not good enough to make the NHL roster and be too good for the AHL.
Oh gosh, yeah, and it's sad to say, but I feel like if Trey Fix-Wolansky was 5 inches taller, he'd be our third line right winger.
Oh, 100%.
You know what I mean? Like he has so much talent. I just feel like this coaching staff is, but he's so small. We don't want to put him out there because he's small. Like, is that going to translate to the NHL? I don't know. I want to see it. I want to see it translate to the NHL. We're never going to know if you don't give him the chance. And so that's frustrating, but he's just a guy that I'm going to continue to root for. If he goes to Cleveland again, gosh, like it's frustrating. It is frustrating with him, but also, again, so many other guys just all over the Cleveland Monsters lineup that are like, they're ready to move on, man. Let's get this going. But yeah, I think it's just if those guys, like, if Bemstrom and Olivier and Chinakhov, if these guys come to Columbus and are not producing right away, make a move because these are the most crucial games of the year, these first couple months. And I'd hate for them to be out of the playoffs because they weren't playing the best guys in the organization. Like that would suck.
Yeah. And like that's the other thing as well, is the Blue Jackets have kind of it's bad that we have to send all these guys down, but it's good to have options. Someone's not doing well. Okay, bench him for a couple of games. Cleveland is an hour and a half away if you drive fast, like 2 hours at the most. Bring Trey Fix-Wolansky down to Columbus. Bring David Jiricek down to Columbus. Like, play them for a couple of games, send them back up. Although Trey Fix-Wolansky might have to go through waivers as well, so we'll see how that goes. But this is the problem with the start of the season, is that everyone needs waivers, and I get very stressed about the whole thing. But this team does not need Patrick Kane, is the thing. They don't need him. He's going to cost too much money. He will take up a top 6 spot, but from someone that I think deserves it more. And I think he's really started to wane in his career. Like, if you'd said 5 years ago, I probably would have said, yeah, let's take him. But I don't think this team needs Patrick Kane to succeed. And I think acquiring a probably overpaid veteran like that is not the way this team wants to go. We already have too many overpaid veterans. I don't remember what my point was before I saw Patrick Kane and got fully distracted. Yeah, you have options. If there's an injury, look at what happened last year. I'm going to knock on wood because that's what I do every time we talk about injuries. The Blue Jackets get another injury. They have a guy there to step in. It's not going to be like last season where you're icing 4 rookie defensemen in one game or 5 rookie defensemen in one game. You have guys with experience now. You have guys that can jump in and play. And so I think that is really helpful. But I would really like to see Jiricek in the NHL. I really would.
Yeah. I'm just to go back to Patrick Kane real quick. I feel like he still has something to offer, but it just doesn't feel like he'd fit well on this team, which puts a huge emphasis on, I feel like, speed. And he's just isn't he coming off a knee injury? So it's
he just had hip resurfacing surgery.
Yeah.
So he had the same surgery that Nick Backstrom had last offseason. I'm not opposed to bringing a guy like that in, but I do think it's name recognition. You're going to pay for the name,
right,
but not the production. You know,
No.
you're not going to make the money that he was making last season, which was what 11, 12 and a half million, I think he was making in his last contract. But like, if you're paying more than $4-5 million for Patrick Kane, in my opinion, you're overpaying. Maybe that's a hot take. I don't know,
Well,
but
let's let, and we also don't want to bring in. I don't know about this, but like I feel like the Blue Jackets maybe this offseason can say they've learned their lesson in terms of
bringing controversial figures into the organization. Yeah, there's that as well.
Yeah, bringing in guys from the 2010s that were, really good and trying to recreate magic. The other thing though with him is like, yeah, the injury is a thing, and like I don't think he has any interest in Columbus. Like, let's be completely honest. He's looking at the Cup contender teams. He's looking at teams that original six teams. Heavy interest in Detroit, I feel like, because of Alex DeBrincat.
He wants to play with DeBrincat, which
so maybe that would be my hopeful, because I used to be a Red Wings fan, like back when my family's from Northwest Ohio, so we grew up watching Red Wings hockey, and they haven't been good since Pavel Datsyuk left. So I would root for that for them, and plus they had to be tortured by Patrick Kane for a long time in the Central Division, and so did Blue Jackets fans, obviously. But that's what I'm rooting for with him. And
I'm looking at we just got a question about buyers at the deadline. Who would we go for? And there's some really interesting names. So Mr. Steven Stamkos is going to be an unrestricted free agent at the end of this season, I believe. That could
Does he want to play here?
I don't think he would stay, but acquiring him could be fun. Yeah. Jordan Eberle is going to be a free agent at the end of the season. There's a bunch of guys on here that I'm like, yeah, they would be really great to add for like one season as rentals, which is a weird position to be in, because the last time we were buyers at the deadline, it would have been the time that we sold everything to go out and get Matt Duchene. Mm-hmm. So we'll have to see about that. The Ducks will probably be mighty again in 3 to 5 seasons, depending on whether they figure out what's going on with Zegras and Drysdale. They have good bones. They have a lot of very good prospects. They've got a very, very solid prospect pool, almost as good as the Blue Jackets, I think. But if they have the coach to figure it out, and if they manage to re-sign their star guys to an amount of money that makes them want to stay,
that's insane. Does Zegras want out of Anaheim? Like, why are they?
No, I think he wants to be there, but the Ducks are lowballing him. They're like, "Yeah, we'll give you like $4 million," and I'm like, "No." So, as far as I understand it, both Zegras and Drysdale are skating at home. So Drysdale's gone back to Toronto. Zegras is in New York, skating there. So we'll see. We'll have to keep monitoring that. I'm going to be. So I like Trevor Zegras a lot. I think he's a really fun player to watch. If I go to Columbus to watch, it'll be the Ducks Blue Jackets game at the end of October that I'm going to be in Nationwide for. And I'm going to be really annoyed if I don't get to see Trevor Zegras play hockey, because he's really fun to watch.
He is fun to watch. I mean, and like, I just remember, this is a personal story of mine, but last year, or maybe it was 2 years ago, I got in a long Twitter exchange with a Ducks fan about just like which team was better. Like I was tweeted about the game or something. I tweeted about Zegras, and then like some Ducks fan caught it and like commented, and I went like for literally 2 hours online. It was one of those online interactions where I was like, God, we're both losers for participating in this. But I think about those Ducks fans, because like there are passionate hockey fans out there for these teams. Like, they have to be so frustrated getting a generational talent in Trevor Zegras, and the ownership and the leadership at that team just being like, he's nothing to us. We got Leo Carlson.
I mean, I feel like we can relate to that, because how many Blue Jackets have left and gone on to be really successful somewhere else, and it feels a little bit like Zegras is going to go to like the Islanders or something and just light it up with Matt Barzal for the next 10 years. But
I would kind of hate that because it's
I
in
would
our
also hate
division.
that. But it could happen.
Where would be the most fun destination for Trevor Zegras?
I mean, the
Would you
most fun
say?
destination would be Columbus, but
The second
barring
most
that, where would be fun? I think the Kings would be fun. Putting him in LA.
Yeah.
He's pretty good friends with Alex Chakot, who's one of their really good young players, and I think that would be a lot of fun. They have a lot of centers, but that would be fun. Where
Moving
else?
across town, yeah. Would the Ducks go
Yeah,
for that?
literally
I
just
don't know.
move an hour north. I think
Yeah,
would be very funny.
that would
And it would
be.
make Ducks fans really mad. Detroit would be fun.
Yeah,
I think
Buffalo,
Montreal would also be very fun. Just
Montreal,
put
yeah.
him and Cole Caulfield together and watch the magic happen. But yeah, there's a lot of fun places to put good players. You know,
This guy Noah's now asking me if I played youth hockey in Columbus. I did not. I played a lot of roller hockey. So there's the. If you were wondering if Hayden knows puck, he does not. He played.
Hayden knows roller puck.
I know street hockey. Yeah. No, but I mean, my family moved to Columbus in 2004. We were always football and baseball fans, so I grew up playing those sports. But the Jackets were the only professional team in town. No disrespect to the crew, but the Blue Jackets are on Fox Sports Ohio pretty much every other night. So I grew up just throwing those games on and just listening to the sweet tones of Jeff Rimmer, and yeah, it was awesome. It was awesome. Rick Nash, Nikolai Zherdev, like those are the two dudes that like David Verborny, like those guys. That's my like welcome to being a hockey fan era of Coates, which I know for some people here might age some people, but I'm starting to feel older myself as time moves on. It happens to all of us, so just wait, and I will feel like the old bag shortly. So
it's already happening to me. Which I feel fine about. I told this story. I think I told this story on our show, but I also might have told it on a different show. Is the one about Cole Sillinger changing his number to number 4 because he really loved Taylor Hall growing up.
yeah.
And then I went and I was like, I looked up how old Taylor Hall was, and he's like a month older than I am. And I was like, I have to go immediately. I have to leave. Like,
Yeah.
I'm too old for this. I think there's one guy on the team. Like, I'm pretty sure Eric Branson's the only player on this team that's older than me, which again feels fully insane.
Yeah. Well, and it's good to know that Eric Branson kind of stinks, right? Like, or does that not feel good? You'd rather him be good. You'd rather him be older than you.
I would
really
much rather
good.
him be good. Yeah. But...
Yeah. We'd all rather him be good. We'd all rather him be good. But and he's playing with Denton Mateychuk tomorrow.
That's my guess. I don't know that that's confirmed, but that would be my guess.
Well, you are in your insider. You're in your insider era, so
I am in my insider era.
We might have to roll with it.
I'm still so mad that I don't know if we covered this on the show. I'm so mad that I tweeted out the insider info that I got and then went to record an episode immediately. And then 3 minutes after I hit post on the episode where I talked about all of the rumors, the Blue Jackets just went ahead and announced it. So, damn it.
Yeah.
In terms of roster for tomorrow's game, I think probably what we'll do is we'll have to finish up in a minute because it is kind of late here. I also want to see Jiricek and Werenski, Ben. That is my ideal top pairing for this team. So players for tomorrow: Mateychuk, Werenski, Provorov, Voronkov, Fantilli, Danforth, Dunn, Stefan Matteau. I don't know if you guys remember him from back in the day. Adam Boquist, Patrick Laine, Eric Branson, Bemstrom, Jiricek, Malatesta, John Dumais, Marchenko, Kent Johnson, Jack Roslovic, and then it'll be Elvis and Aaron Dell in goal. So a pretty solid lineup, I think. A couple of question marks, but overall, I feel pretty good about that lineup. But I agree with Ben. I would love to see Jiricek and Werenski together. I just don't think it'll happen yet. But next season, I think, is probably going to be where we see Jiricek and Werenski play together full time, which is very exciting to think about.
It is really exciting to think about. And again, a lot of other guys in the ranks that I think Blue Jackets fans need to be keeping their eye on. Carson Kuhlmans as one, Stanislav Svozil, Like those two dudes, pretty high on those. Another guy we're not seeing tomorrow that I'm kind of disappointed in, but again, it's just one preseason game. We will see him playing NHL games soon. David Severson, because boy, that guy looked good in that game against Pittsburgh in Columbus. I'm really excited about him.
He's going to be a really underrated player for this team, I think.
Yeah, because he's defense, wears a high 70s number, but even that, and like he doesn't do much, I think, like from a shooting and goal scoring perspective. But just watch the way that he digs the puck from behind his own net and gets it up to the forwards. It is so clean, so smooth, and he's going to be getting assists on a lot of Fantilli goals this year.
I would believe
I've got a feeling. Yeah.
Let's finish off. We had a question right at the beginning from Elk. Final score prediction for tomorrow for the Blue Jackets. So let's finish off with that. What's the final score going to be, Hayden? And I will introduce you to my typical prediction for a game. Who's going to open the scoring for the Blue Jackets tomorrow? This is what I do after you were not here when we were doing episodes at the end of last season, but I always like to try and predict the score and predict who's going to be the first goal scorer for the Blue Jackets. And that's what we're going to do after every game. Or before every game, excuse me. There's no point predicting things after a game. That's not how this works. But what do you think the final score is going to be? Who's going to score the first goal for the Blue Jackets tomorrow?
Well, I'm between two guys on the first goal. I'm between Bemstrom. I'm not going to pick Bemstrom because he's too hot. I think he needs to cool down at some point. But he has said that his goal this preseason is to put every possible puck on net. So that gives you an idea of what the mindset of Emil Bemstrom is like, I need to get on the score sheet to make the NHL lineup. But I'm not going to pick him. I'm actually going to pick Jordan Dumais. I think he's a guy who is really scrappy. He scored the game-winning goal in overtime against Pittsburgh. And I think he's just a sneaky good goal scorer. And I could see him coming out there to Buffalo with a little bit of pop underneath his legs and getting the first one.
Yeah,
what about you?
He's got good line mates as well. That was actually going to be my pick. But I guess I will pick someone else because you got there first. I'm going to go ahead and pick... I'm going to be boring. I'm going to go Patrick Laine.
That's so boring.
I think he's going to open the scoring. I think he is primed to have a monster season. I don't believe he scored a goal yet in the preseason. So I'm looking for him to get on the board. And I think the final score is going to be 5-2 to Columbus.
Nice. A big win. Okay.
Which is maybe over-enthusiastic, but I've said it. That's what I'm going with.
I'm going to take, these preseason games are so tough to predict, but I think this will be pretty much as close to a regular season game as you're going to find in the preseason. I'm going to take the Jackets 4-3. I think it's also going to be slightly high scoring. They're going to get that over 6.5 goals. And I kind of made fun of you for picking Laine, but like the truth is he has the most exciting goals. Like when he scores, I have to get out of my seat because it's usually so awesome. He's just such a big guy with all these like tight little stick handles somehow.
He doesn't make sense as a player. He's so big and then doesn't play like he's 6'5". He was involved in my absolute favorite game-winning goal of this season, which was the one in San Jose where it was the overtime winner. They won like 6-5 or 7-6 or something, and it was just a really, really stupid goal where they basically accidentally scored. It was very good. I do want to point out that one last thing is I said 5-2. I do think that's going to be an empty netter. So basically 4-2 because empty net goals don't count on this podcast. That's what I said all of last season, and I'm sticking to it. But we'll have to see. Maybe we'll do a little mini podcast after the game tomorrow.
Yeah,
if we have the energy.
Let's do it.
A postcast, if you will, and we'll talk about the things that we liked and the things we didn't like. We're going to finish up here now.
Real quickly,
sure,
I'm gonna give you flowers here, and maybe this is something you don't care about at all. But do you care about the sport of golf at all?
I do not. Golf exists. I saw that the Europeans kicked America's butt in golf
Kicking
today. I
butt
don't
right
know
now.
in what or how, but I did see that we kicked your butts. So
There's still some game left, but yes, you guys, just because we have, we're split on this podcast right now, Jay is kicking my butt in golf. Let's just say that. Just leave it at
me specifically, yeah.
that. Yeah. All right. That's all I got. My drink's about
we'll
empty.
finish up here. Shout out to you guys for coming to hang out. We had a ton of fun, as always. We won't be doing this next week. We might be doing one the week after. We're going to try and do them every couple of weeks. I will be in the States, so it'll be a little bit easier for me. We can maybe go a little longer or stay up a little later because it won't be midnight when I am recording these. But shout out to you guys for hanging out. Once again, if you want to win tickets, take a screenshot of you being subscribed to our YouTube channel and email it to us at lockedonbluejackets@gmail.com. Follow me on Twitter at _Jacob Foster, JAKOBFORSTER, down at the bottom of the screen there. You can find Hayden at HaydenH971. And let's have fun tomorrow with the game. Let's enjoy it. Blue Jackets hockey is back. I'm excited. And if we're not live tomorrow, then we'll see you guys on Monday morning with some probable hot takes about the game.
Confirmed hot takes.
We love hot takes here on Locked On Blue Jackets.
Yeah.